My name is Darryl McLean. I've been working with the skills development sector for about 15 years now. Prior to that, I was in adult education. Prior to that, I was teaching at a university.
My name is Nthabisa Mhani. I come from a company called, I'm a director of a company called Black Crane Consulting.
Well, my name is Pulani. I come from the Tsila's Workers Education Institute.
Prior to a few years ago, RPL was largely left at the level of policy, and the way in which it was cascaded down was it was built into provider accreditation criteria, so that every provider, whether it was a university or a private training provider or an FET college, had to actually have policies and procedures for the recognition of prior learning. It was based on the logic that learners themselves would identify that maybe there's a need or an opportunity, and they would then come forward and suggest it. I think in the last few years what's happened is that people have recognized that learners themselves will seldom identify the need for recognition of prior learning. They don't even understand fully what it is. And that what you need is to coordinate government-wide activities or sector-wide activities where you say, okay, here's a large number of people who are probably eligible for RPL. They've got much of, if not all of, the knowledge and skills that they need to earn this qualification. And if you can identify large numbers of people like that, then you develop a targeted intervention and you actually mobilize those people. You educate them, you say to them, listen, these are the opportunities. We think you've got most of the knowledge and skills, but here's a checklist. Can you do the following? Do you know the following? If so, you're probably eligible for RPL, and if so, here's the process that you can go through. So I think historically we've had very poor uptake of recognition of prior learning. You know, the numbers of people that have benefited from RPL are tiny in comparison to what we believed they would be, and secondly, for which we know there are possibilities. There are thousands of workers in local government, for example, who were prevented by racial legislation from holding certain qualifications or doing certain jobs, but they nevertheless were doing those jobs for many years. Those workers, chances are, have most of the knowledge or skills required to earn the qualification. But until you go to those workers and say to them, do you think you're likely to be eligible for this? Would you like to participate in a process to try to earn this qualification? If so, here's how you go about it. Until you do that, those workers are not going to know how to move.
As I said, the issues are vast issues of social issues. For example, people go and work in the municipality because they're unemployed. They take anything that comes along. For example, the guy who works cleaning in the toilets for 40 years, he's got no options. He's not been to school. He doesn't have any skills. He doesn't have any experience. So anything that comes and take. So RPL in that sense would help at least focus on the skills. For example, the years that the person has been doing the job, and help them with an ABET, or I learned yesterday there's a new term.
RPL has not been easy for workers. In fact, we have tried to pilot a program in which our aim was to do RPL, but we failed dismally because of a number of reasons that some of them I actually tried to put forward in yesterday's discussions. The process is very strenuous. Workers found it too much of hard work to gather evidence, to also provide and justify your knowledge. So a lot of them dropped out because of that. And the language that was used, that is used rather, in the RPL, it's a bit technical, that your normal, or person at the grassroots, the very same person that we're trying to help today, that we've been trying to develop this RPL process and programs for the last 4 years, is not going to be able to understand. I made an example yesterday that if your typical worker, the beneficiary of this process, would walk in today, they wouldn't understand a word you say. So it's too technical, it's far removed that workers are not able to relate to. So those are some of the things that we need to iron out in order to have a smooth implementation of the process.
I think in the last few years, certainly the Minister for Higher Education is very keen on RPL. There's a recent set of policy initiatives to try and drive this more urgently. So the Minister himself has spearheaded an RPL initiative. SACWA has spearheaded a number of RPL pilot projects to try and build capacity around this and explore different ways of doing it. And I think each sector has started looking at how to take this forward more thoughtfully and with more energy than they have done in the past. In the past, they relegated it to providers to take forward RPL, and the providers weren't incentivized to do so. So NSDS 3 has included RPL as a core focus. The Minister has driven RPL more urgently. SACWA has put a lot of effort into it, and I think the CETAs are starting to put a lot more effort into it. In provincial and national government, I think in local government as well, there now are initiatives to try and drive RPL forward more coherently. DPSA is in the process of signing off an RPL policy and procedure that will be implemented across provincial and national government departments. There's a strategy and a plan through which they're going to be doing that. Resources are being allocated toward this sort of thing. So my sense is things are different now to what they were even 3 years ago. I think we've got a lot more effort behind it at the moment.